60th anniversary. You know, it's really easy to be friends with people who are popular, but the test of a true friend, of a trusted ally, is standing beside somebody who's wildly unpopular. To put it mildly, when it comes to Middle East politics, Israel is just that, unpopular. But they continue to be our strongest, most essential ally in the region, and we need each other now more than ever before. Iraq is still struggling for stability, Iran continues to grow as a threat to the whole world, and Israel is an oasis. For 6 decades, they have proven that a nation can be passionately devout and democratic. Ideally, other countries will abandon their terror and violence and follow Israel's example. While we keep our fingers crossed for that, I feel it's a perfect time to revisit my interview with former Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to see how far Israel has come and how far they still need to go. Hello, welcome, sir.
Hello, good to be with you.
This program and this particular hour, we spend time asking just sometimes I think politically incorrect questions. Sometimes I'm a regular American schmo that, quite honestly, right before 9/11, and I don't mean any offense, sir, but Israel and the Palestinians, everybody's been arguing for so long. As a typical American, before 9/11, I was like, you know what, just set it out. You could all just fall into the middle of the sea, and it doesn't matter to me, because you're always fighting. Now 9/11 happened, I thought, gee, maybe I should pay attention to this. And many Americans did, and saw, wait a minute, there's trouble. But now that's changing even more. And you said something in Los Angeles that I'm so grateful that somebody is finally saying, that this is World War III, this is Germany 1938. Could you explain that?
Iran is Germany, and it's 1938, except that this Nazi regime that is in Iran, it's a religious kind of fanaticism, but it wants to dominate the world, annihilate the Jews, but also annihilate America. Remember, we're the small Satan, you're the big Satan.
Right.
We're just the first way station en route to you. So there's this fundamental fanaticism that is there. It's a messianic cult. It's a religious messianic cult that believes in the apocalypse. And they believe they have to expedite the apocalypse to bring the collapse of the West.
See, nobody is saying, why isn't George Bush saying this? Why is it nut jobs like me who is saying this? Why isn't the media bringing this about?
I think they're getting around to it, but it has to be explained, and that's why I appreciate the opportunity to say it. But if I had to offer an analogy,
yeah.
You know, Glenn, I was looking for an analogy to try to explain to Americans what it is that is so dangerous about Iran acquiring nuclear weapons. You remember that those crazy people in Waco, Texas?
Yeah, David Koresh.
David Koresh?
Yes.
So imagine David Koresh with nuclear weapons. Imagine David Koresh not with hundreds of followers, but millions of followers with nuclear weapons, wanting to obliterate America, wanting to obliterate America's allies, wanting to take over the world's oil supply. If the lunatics escape from the asylum, that's one thing. But if they can get their hands on nuclear weapons, that's another. And this is that kind of cult. It's the cult of the Mahdi, a holy man that disappeared 1,000 years ago. And the president of Iran believes that he was put in here on earth to bring this holy man back in a great religious war between the true Muslim believers and the infidels, and millions will die in this apocalypse, and the Muslim believers will go to heaven. That's dangerous if they have nuclear weapons to realize this fantasy. And that is where the world is coming to. Now, people said that of Hitler in the 1930s. They said, this man has a mad ideology. Very fanatic, very dangerous, and if he gets his hands on military power, he would use it. Hitler did use it, but Hitler developed atomic weapons, tried to develop them, only after he embarked on a world conflict. Ahmadinejad, the president of Iran, is first trying to develop nuclear weapons and then going about his mad fantasy of global conflict. So he has to be stopped. I think when you have something as fanatic and as dangerous as this, the question now is not whether he should be stopped, but how is he going to be stopped?
I was in the Holocaust Memorial in Washington, D.C., and one of the more powerful rooms for me was the room where they have all of the newspapers up on the wall and all of the headlines. And to me, what stuck out was Hitler was very clear, very clear. Yeah. He said, basically, he was saying, take the Jews before I kill them. And everybody was in denial. Now, let me play devil's advocate with you. We've heard nut jobs, especially in Iran, for a very long time. What makes you say we should take this nut job at his word? Why is this guy different than what we have seen with religious fanatics that are really only interested in power and not interested in the apocalypse?
Well, I was getting this question in the 1990s, and I said that the West really doesn't understand militant Islam. So I wrote a book in 1995, and I said that if the West doesn't wake up to the suicidal nature of militant Islam, the next thing you'll see is the militant Islam is bringing down the World Trade Center. Other nut ideologies don't do that, but militant Muslims do, and they are competing. They have two strains: the Sunni type, led by Al-Qaeda, who have done the World Trade Center; the Shia types, led by Iran, who want to top that by having nuclear weapons with which they can dominate the world, ultimately bring down America. We're merely the first target. They hate us because we're you, and we're the first station. They have to, in the Middle East. They hate Israel because it represents America. They don't hate America because of Israel, because we're part and parcel of that same free, to their minds, hated, hedonistic civilization. Right. So I think the real problem is, do we let this this fanatic regime, this messianic cult of the apocalypse get their hands on atomic weapons? I think it's folly. And I don't think it's just an Israeli question, any more so than Hitler was just a Jewish question. Hitler started with the annihilation of the Jews, but pretty quickly moved on to threaten the entire world. And America woke up late after 6 million Jews died.
Right.
But in our case, we don't have to wake up dead in order for people to realize that he threatens America. We want to both defend ourselves, defend the Jewish state certainly, but also defend America and free civilization against people who would extinguish our freedoms and our lives.
I am amazed at the parallels of World War II. Just, it is incredible. All the way down, you hear people say all the time, well, it's the Jews, it's Israel, they're causing the problem, they've done all these horrible things, yada, yada, yada. Just as though Hitler used the Europeans and saying, well, it's the Versailles Treaty, and it's this, and it's that. That was a mask to bring in the real point of
Well, let's ask
Hitler.
a question, because people really don't get this. Ahmadinejad, the president of Iran, and the cult that he represents, they couldn't care less if we made a deal with the Palestinians or we didn't. As far as they're concerned, the only deal possible is the elimination of Israel. And even that would merely remove an obstacle on their way to Europe and on their way to the United States. Israel could disappear, and it wouldn't make a difference. Because they're out to get you. They're not out to get us. We're simply standing in their way. They're not interested in Israel per se. They're interested in bringing down Western civilization led by the United States. That's why you're the great Satan, and we're just a little Satan.
Tell me what the world looks like if we don't act.
If you don't act, it means that it'll be the first time in the history of the world that a totally unstable, globally mad regime will have atomic bombs and the means to deliver them. This means, A, that they will dominate the Middle East very quickly. They will make the Persian Gulf an Iranian pond. They will control the world's oil supply. And they will probably use the weapons first against my country and then to intimidate or threaten Europe. They want to control the world. Now, eventually they'll be brought down. How many millions will have to die for that? How many cities will be wiped out before the Western world and civilization realizes that this is not a local problem, that this is their problem, that it's directed against them, directed against you?
Okay. When we come back, we have to take a break, but when we come back, I want you to answer my father's question. My father told me on the phone a couple of weeks ago, you know what, we're the United States of America. Nobody can defeat us. Stop. It's not that big of a problem. And the second thing I want you to address is, how long do we have before we are right on the front lines? Back with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in just a moment.